Hey guys, it's Melanie Ann from Melanie Ann Home Life. I am making the artisan bread. I did say if I got 100 likes, I would make it on video. So all you're gonna need, I used 3.5 cups of bread flour. You can use all-purpose flour. It really doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that it's easy to work with. And if it's not, that's not terrible. I'm using about 2 teaspoons of dry active yeast. We're just going to throw that in. And then 1.5 teaspoons of salt in the pot. I'm just going to give this a quick mix. With artisan bread, you don't need a bunch of different bowls. Like sometimes when I make homemade bread, I find that I'm proofing and I'm mixing and I'm this and that. This is simple. This is wonderful. This is great. So what I've done is I've measured out 1.75 cups of water. I'm not going to put the full 1.75 cups of water in. I'm going to put about 1.5 cups in here. And I've reserved 1/4 cup just to make sure that I have enough. And now I'm just going to put this dough together. And this is a no-knead dough, but you want to be mindful about water. So we want to incorporate as much as we can. I'm not using my hands for this, I'm just using a fork. I'm going to scrape these sides down. And I am going to use a little more water because I don't have enough. Sometimes bread flour, is a little fluffier than all-purpose flour, so you have to account for that and use a little extra water. Getting all scientific, saying fluffier. This dough is gonna look like a mess. It really is. And that's okay. I am gonna just put a little bit more water in there. You don't want it to be mucky, but you want all of the flour and from the side and everything incorporated, because your bread is gonna sit out for, I did this yesterday and I did it in like 5 hours and I got a really good loaf of bread. But ideally, you can let it sit for 12 to 24 hours. If you want to make this like at breakfast time, cook it for supper, you can do that. This is it. That's it. Okay, I'm gonna put it in a ball. There we go. That's it. So now with this dough, I'm going to put a lint-free tea towel on the top of it, and I'm going to let it sit till after dinner, till before dinner, and then we're going to cook it. I've done this 3 separate times, so this is my 3rd pot of this bread, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook it in a cast iron enamel pan, as well as a casserole dish and a cast iron skillet to give you the best information, because a lot of videos and a lot of different recipes out there, they're saying, oh, do it this way, it's the best. Oh, do it this way, that this is the best. I just want to find a way that you can do things with the things that you have at home. So again, I'm going to leave this sit on my counter for 6 to 12 hours. You could make it at night and cook it for breakfast in the morning. And then we'll come back and we'll put everything into each pan and bake it, and you can see the results. And then I'm gonna have the boys in my house taste test all of this bread. Good morning, everybody. So I'm going to shoot my video a little backwards today, but we'll put it together properly. So I've been watching a lot of people make artisan bread, and so I did say if I got 100 likes, I would make the artisan bread, but then forward thinking, the videos that I sort of got the recipes from and such they were saying, oh, you can only make it in an enamel pot or a Dutch oven, and then another one set a frying pan. So I'm going to actually make 3 loaves. We're going to compare them, and yeah, so I'm at the kneading process. So bear with me. I am going to show you what the dough looks like right now, and then I'll show you the kneading process, because this is really not a kneading process. This is a no knead loaf. So these are the 3 pans that I'm going to use. So this is an enamel cast iron pot. This is just a casserole dish, and I'm going to grease my good old cast iron skillet. This is what the dough looks like after sitting on the counter for 12 hours. So all have risen, and everything is good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these pans in the oven, because I'm going to do them the screaming hot method, and my dough needs to rest, and I'm going to show you the kneading trick. So bear with me. Okay, so what I've done is usually put this into a bowl and let it reproof. I'm actually just going to leave this on my wooden board, and all you're going to do is you're going to take a handful of flour. So we want a flour hand and a dough hand. So whichever hand you use to knead, that's what you're going to do. Is you're going to keep your left hand. For me, I'm going to keep my left hand. We're going to put a generous handful of flour on here, and all you're going to do is push this dough down, and we're going to re-knead it. You need to turn this bowl 12 times. You need to knead 12 times. So that's like 5. So ideally what you're doing is you're just kneading your ball twice. It's going to change the dynamic of the dough. And this has been standard across every video I've seen. So I promise you, this is the only kneading you're going to be doing. And we're just going to take our flour hand. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit here, sprinkle a little bit more on top. We're going to take it out of the bowl and transfer it there. There's no shaping with this. It's just, honestly, I'm covering it with flour so it's not sticky, but that's your dough.
Okay, go.
So I'm going to put that handful of flour in there, and now I'm just going to flip the dough 6 times. This is the only kneading you're going to be doing for this loaf of bread. It may feel sticky, and that's okay. You can put a little more flour in. I know I'll cover this flour anyways, and it's just going to be for my kneading anyways, because that's how I am. Okay, so usually you can put this into another bowl, but I'm going to pop this here on my board. I'm going to put a little bit of flour over each loaf. This is going to be where they proof. So this loaf, so what I've done is I've got 3 loaves of dough. This is the one that's going to go into the cast iron skillet, an enamel pot, casserole dish. I'm going to let these rest. While this is resting though, I just want you to see I've got my oven preheating to 400 degrees, because I am going to follow those baking guidelines that the other bakers are saying, that 400 degree. And I do have my pots in there getting super screaming hot. This will give the bread time to proof. So it ideally needs between 20 and 30 minutes. I just covered it with a lint-free tea towel, as you can see. So these are going to sit here for about 20 more minutes, just hanging out and resting. Okay, so these are all my pans. They're all screaming hot. The only thing I did was with my cast iron skillet, I did spray a little bit of cooking spray. So I'm just opening this up. This bread is proofed, so I'm just going to go into this pan, and into this pan. Put your handy dandy gloves back on, because these are hot. The lids are screaming hot. This one does not have a lid. I'm going to pop these 2 into the same 400 degree oven. I'm going to set the timer for 30 minutes, because in this, it says, every video I've watched, it says 30 minutes with the lid on, 30 minutes with the lid off. The internal temperature of the bread should be about 190 degrees. So we're gonna take the cast iron skillet, we're gonna pop it into this oven. We'll check this in 30 minutes and see where we're at. There we go, it's just gonna be. So, I'm gonna pop this one just out for a second to take the lid off. Oh, look at that. That one's a nice loaf. So we're gonna put it back in. We're gonna pop the second one out. That one's a good one too. We're gonna put this back on for 30 more minutes. And then we're gonna pop over to the other oven. See what our, ooh, this one looks done. I'm gonna give it a couple of more minutes. I'm actually just gonna set the timer. I'm gonna check it underneath. Actually, that looks really done. I'm gonna pull it out. And I'm gonna just take the temperature of it. I wanna see what it looks like, how it is on the inside. So remember I said 190 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what we need here. So I'm just using a meat thermometer because that's what I got. This loaf, you'll see, does not look as big. And we're stopping at about 160 degrees. So I'm going to pop this back in the oven for a little bit longer. I'm going to put it back in for about 10-15 more minutes. I'll just set that timer again for 10 minutes. And then I'll check the temperature again. Okay, so this loaf of bread right now is sitting at 200 degrees. It can, ideally, you want it at 190, but it can go up to 225 and still give you some, like, still be fine and still taste well. This loaf I'm not particularly happy with because it didn't expand enough. And why didn't it expand enough? I can't answer that. I do think there is some good expansion in the other one with the covered pans, and I think that it needs the covered pan in order for the heat to make the yeast rise. This is a great alternative if you don't have a pan, like if you don't have a Dutch oven or you don't have a lidded casserole dish, it still works. I'm gonna cut into it a little bit, like in a little bit once it cools a little bit, and then it needs to cool for about 15 minutes, half an hour, just so that you can cut into it without ripping it apart. Or even like 6 hours would be better because then it gives it a real time to cool. And then when you're cutting the bread, it again doesn't rip apart. So this is like an artisan bread, which is a no-knead bread that, you know, I know my husband and I lots of times will pay $5 for in the store. Literally cost me probably about 40 cents to make that. That's really good in these times, right? So each of these loaves, this is a cast iron enamel skillet, and this is just a covered casserole dish. They're like 198 for this one was 196. I am just gonna pop them out so we see what they look like. Remember, this was our skillet bread. This is our covered casserole bread. And then that was the cast iron enamel pot. I think this one looks the nicest. This one's okay. I think it's easier to use that than this because this is so heavy. And that's the cast iron skillet. They all look really good. I will tell you that the cast iron skillet loaf feels a little heavier, but all in all, I'm happy with the way it came out. How am I going to continue baking bread? I'm probably going to use the ceramic enamel pot, cast iron pot, only because I do feel that there is some truth in the putting the lid on it so it rises higher. But all in all, I'm happy with how they came out. I will let my family tell you at dinner time tonight what they think of the breads. Okay, boys, everybody say hi. All right, so if you can try the first piece of bread at the front of your, just have one little bite, see what you think.
Mmm, tastes like bread and butter.
It's good.
This one's all fluffy.
It's good.
Okay, second one.
Oh, that's okay. I thought you were at the table.
Timmy,
This one tastes more done than that one does. This one's still.
This one's like a baguette.
This one was a little, felt a little. It's completely cooked, but it just feels
I like the whole
denser.
thing. I like the whole thing.
This is lighter and fluffier.
you have butter on your mustache, Tim.
That's so. I'm all greased up for you later.
Sweet.
Oh, my Lord.
Okay, the last one. Everybody try the last one.
Yeah, you got another one.
Last one first.
That's the best
See that one? That one could like be a toast.
That's the best one.
The last one's the best one.
I like the middle one.
I like the second one, yeah.
So the first one, just so everybody knows, the first one is the one that we made in the skillet.
It's good.
The second one was the one we made in the casserole dish. And the third was the one we made in the enamel pot. So
I like this stuff.
I think the third one, if I've already tried all three, I think the third one is the best as well. What do you guys think?
The crust is better than the third one. They're all very tasty. They all taste similar.
So now let's just go to Jackson. Did you like any of the breads, buddy? First, second, or third one? The third one? Was it delicious?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. So I think we're going to continue using the enamel pot. Say bye. All right, everybody. There you have it. That is Artisan Bread, and which one you make is up to you. I will tell you that we are going to continue with the enamel pot one. You can reserve a piece of your dough about the size of a golf ball. You can put it into another bowl, and you can actually add a cup of water and a cup of flour to it, and then cover it with saran wrap or a bee hive wrap. I call them beehive wraps, whatever they're called, bees wrap. And you can either let it sit out on the counter for 24 hours, or you can put it in the fridge for a couple of days. And then if you use that recipe, you're just going to omit. So where you use the 3.5 cups of flour, you're going to use 2.5 cups of flour and maybe that 3/4 cup of water. Mix it together, and you're not going to add yeast to it. I can definitely do another video about that, but honestly, I seem to have a lot of yeast right now, so I can continue with what I'm doing. Again, you can use bread flour, you can use all-purpose flour. This recipe is very, very forgiving. The only thing that I want to caution you on is if it gets too mucky and you use too much water, you are going to have to play the flour water game, and that's kind of not a fun game. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like and subscribe, and we'll bring you tons more videos coming soon. Okay, have a wonderful day. This is Melanie Ann from Melanie Ann Home Life.